Hello everyone, I'm Richard, and in today's video I'm going to go over 3 techniques that you're probably already using. However, if you're not seeing improvement or you're not getting the results that you'd hope for, then it's probably time to change some things up. A little later on in the video, I'm going to show you a yard that I've been working on all season long using only what I'm about to show you today. I'm going to go over the basics of each technique with you, and hopefully you'll be able to find something in there to help you turn some things around. So let's get started. So the first technique I'm going to talk about should really come as no surprise, and that's watering. Everybody knows that you need to water your yard for it to grow. However, are you watering it correctly? Are you overwatering? Are you underwatering? Are you maximizing the amount of water that actually gets to the roots of your grass? Most people say that you need to have your yard watered before 10 a.m. Me, personally, I start mine around 3 a.m. and I do it in sections. I do it in zones. I have an in-ground system myself. For warm season grasses, you usually want to get about 1 to 1.5 inches a week. Same for cool season grasses, but you really need to maximize it by how you do it. You also want to water your lawn deep and infrequently. And what I mean by that is if you're trying to get 1 inch per week, let's try to spread it out to where you're watering twice a week at 1/2 inch each time. If you do it every single day and you just do a small amount every day to try to get up to that 1 inch mark, then what that's going to do is that's going to cause the roots of the grass to not grow deep. They're going to stay shallow. They're going to stay closer to the surface because they're not having to search for water. In times of drought, that's bad because the water is going to be deeper. And if the roots aren't already down there, then your lawn's going to go dormant and it's going to turn brown just like everybody else's. So if you water deep and the roots are growing deep and it's having to search for the water down there, you're going to be better off in these times of drought. Also, if your lawn has low spots like mine or it's on a steep grade, and every time you water and you water for a long time, the water's just running right out into the street, going right down the gutter, or you have a lot of water pooling up in your yard, then you need to break that up. I typically do it in zones. So if it takes me 45 minutes to get 1/2 inch, I'll break that up into 3 15-minute intervals. I will water zone 1 for 15 minutes, then I'll go to zone 2 for 15 minutes, and then I'll go back to zone 3 for 15 minutes, and then I'll start the cycle over again. Because what happens is when you water that zone 1 for 15 minutes and then you move on to the next zone, you're not flooding your yard. And that water in zone 1 is soaking in while you're watering zone 2. So it has 30 minutes to dry out by the time it comes back. You water again, and you're getting your full amount of water on at one time, but you're not losing water. You're not pooling up your yard. You're not putting water out into the street. Like I said, I water mine around 3 a.m. That seems to be when the temperature is the coolest and when the winds are the least. That way I know that the water is actually getting on my lawn. Also, another thing that I found out where I live, if I start mine around 6 in the morning, when a lot of people do, water pressure seems to be really low. And I think that's because I'm on city water and a lot of people are just up getting ready for work that morning. People are taking showers and the water pressure just seems to be real low. It didn't seem to pick back up till around 9 o'clock in the morning. So I switched it to around 3 and things seem to be doing great. The second technique that I want to talk about is fertilizing. Again, this really isn't a surprise to most people. If you want your yard to grow, you've got to feed it. Water is only part of the equation. It actually needs food. Fertilizing can be quite an intense topic because there's a lot to it, and I'm going to go over fertilizing in more detail in later videos, but for right now, I'm just going to kind of hit the basics, and I'm going to do probably what's going to be the easiest and the least intense for beginners and people that are just trying to rehab their yard a little bit. There's so many different types of fertilizers out there. My favorite that I have found is Milorganite. And the reason that I like it is because it's not really that expensive. I think right now it's going for about $16 a bag. You get really good results from it. One bag covers 2,500 square feet. I think the application rate is something like 32 pounds for 2,500 square feet or something like that. But again, I'm not going to go too much into application rates. I'm just going to talk about Milorganite, and I mean, if you put down too much Milorganite, it's not going to burn your yard. I know you've seen yards, or maybe even you've possibly done this yourself, where you've used too much fertilizer and it's burned your yard. It's actually killed your yard. Milorganite does not do that. You can put down as little as you want or as much as you want. You kind of want to do it about every 6 weeks. It's a slow release nitrogen, so it really brings out the green in your yard. It has some iron in there. It's just super simple to use. Honestly, anybody can use it. There's not really much more I'm going to say about it. On the back of the bag, if you were to pick up some Milorganite, there's an actual schedule in there for northern lawns and for southern lawns. So if you just follow what's on there, you're going to get good results. I mean, of course, you got to water it too, but you're going to get good results if you just put this stuff down. So the third and the final technique that I'm going to talk about is mowing. And this one really kind of comes as a surprise to a lot of people. You have to mow your yard, and you have to mow it right, because if you let it grow out really tall and then you cut it as short as possible so you don't have to mow it again for a long time, you're just hurting your grass. You're just going to kill it off, and you're going to have a yard full of weeds if you do that, because you're going to stress your grass out. So the rule to follow here is called the 1/3 rule. I know you've heard a lot of people talk about it, and it works. You just have to get out and you have to mow your yard, and you have to mow it accordingly. So if your grass is 3 inches tall and you're going out to cut it, then you cut it no lower than 2 inches. Anything less than that, you risk stressing it out. The frequency really depends on the growth rate, and that depends on the time of year. I know during a heavy grow season, I'm mowing my yard probably 2 to 3 times a week. I know a lot of people can't really do that, but if you want the nice green lawn, you're kind of going to have to find time to get out and do that. Otherwise, these first 2 techniques that we talked about are just going to be a waste of time and money. So get out there, mow the yard, cut off no more than 1/3 of the blade, and you're going to see really good results. So everything that I talked about in this video, the watering, the fertilizing, the mowing, that's all that I've done to this yard so far. And by looking at the pictures, you'll see the results. Now, it isn't perfect. I still have weeds, I still have bare spots, and those are all issues that I'm going to take care of later. In fact, this whole yard is a disaster, even with all the improvements, but I've still got about a year's worth of content that I can make just in this yard alone. But if you follow these 3 techniques that I've talked about today, you're going to see improvement. And I know that the mowing is going to be tough on you, but once you get out there and you start doing it, you're going to start seeing results. And that's going to make it a little bit more satisfying for you. Each one of these topics I'm going to go over a little bit more in detail in later videos, so be sure to hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you'll know when those videos come out.